Spike, Smolder, A True Love by Switch Double. Sometime after Spike had received his wings, he was given some private lessons from Smolder and Twilight and other friends how to fly. But since dragon wings are a bit different from piggy wings and alicorns, Smolder was there to help him to how to handle his new wings. And Spike was very appreciative that Smolder took her time from her studies to help Spike to get used to his new wings. After that, he get very used to them. He often asked her if they could either take a flight together just to talk, spend some time together, since she is the only dragon in Ponyville that he can relate to. And she often said yes, but sometimes she couldn't because she had to focus mostly on her studies with her friends. But one time Spike had asked her if Smolder wanted to take a flight contest to see who could be the fastest. And she was first thought that she would easily win over Spike easily, because he is just still as a baby dragon then, and she is still as a young teenager. But she didn't want to make Spike to feel bad about it, so she accepted it. So they took a start from the school and they would end at the park and back. At first, the Spike seems to be almost like halfway after Smolder, but since she was already in the park after like a few minutes, she waited there for Spike just to catch up. But after that, after he arrived, she took off. But suddenly, she looked backwards to see if Spike was after her. At first, he was after her, but she was only a few feet away from the castle. Then suddenly, "Hi, Smolder, see ya!" And Spike just passed her, and she was like, "What? How did he get so fast?" And just then she took even more fast speed and tried to catch up Spike, but turns out Spike had already reached the goal, the finish line. At the finish line, she asked Spike, "How did you get so fast?" "Practice," said Spike. And Spike explained that he had been practicing how to be faster from Rainbow Dash for the past few days. And even then, for her, Smolder was quite impressed that Spike, even his baby dragon, that he was actually quite faster than her. She has been using her wings for at least much longer than her, and his has. And Spike was just proud, but he said that she was very good opponent. He asked her if she wanted to take some more flight contests, maybe some other time, but perhaps in more longer distance. Perhaps in like a more challenge, like in a canyons, in the forest, or in the mountains areas or something. And she would thought about that and said yes. But before they decided when, and they had to decide exactly how long the course would take, and in what any obstacles would have to be, and also have at least one or two other friends at each point to see that both Smolder and Spike are still in good health, and if there is any break or something. And so after a few days of checking out their area, they actually started the race from the plaza. And from there, they flew all the way to Sweet Apple Acres, past it, and take right into our canyons there in the deep forest. There was actually Gallus was there with Fiona, watching them and see that it passed, and they passed the other ones so they're further away. After almost like 2 hours of flying, Spike was getting tired, but Smolder still had much energy left. She was not even taking much of her. She was just. Spike saw that she was actually just relaxing when she was flying. She was even making focus. She was somehow only using a fraction of her powers and her strength. She was waiting for Spike to get so tired so she could easily pass him. But Spike realized that plan already, so he focused all his strength he had left to win. But even if they went fast past the last of the two other checkpoints was actually Fluttershy and Rarity. After they passed them, there were only a few yards left to the plaza. After they saw the town was coming upon them from distance were getting closer and closer, Spike was feeling more tired and more tired. He felt that he was about to collapse right on the ground. But he didn't want to. He wanted to focus more on the flying instead of to lose. Even he knows that losing is not all the things to win is not all the things that to happen. But just then, just about maybe like 10 feet away from Plaza, Spike fell to the ground. He was so exhausted. He had been he's pushed him over of the limit so much over the past 2 hours. And Smolder saw it, and she saw that she was so close to the winning line, but decided to stop and save Spike before he get hurt. She would just manage to catch him and landed on the ground. The others came running up to them and asked what happened. And Spike was just still unconscious. And Smolder explained that Spike had pushed him over much over the limit and has been flying had pushed him all over the limit for the past 2 hours without any taking consideration to relax and save up energy like she had. They took with him to a castle where he could rest in his room. Smolder was outside in the library with the others, thinking about if this contest was even worth it. But during the time, she was actually blushing when they asked her if she liked Spike even more than just a friend, since they had spent a lot of time together. Smolder could just not even stop blushing about it. He was actually enjoying to spend some time with Spike, even he's a bit younger than her. But after just a few hours later, Spike actually woke up and was wondering why he was in his own bed. And then he realized and remembered the last he remembered was actually that he was falling from the sky. But then after that, he had no memory. He actually left his room to went down to the library to find Smolder unhealed completely alone except from Gallus and Fiona. They were talking about this contest and some of their studies. Spike then heard from the distance when Gallus asked Smolder, "Are you even sure that you love Spike? Come on, we have seen you smiling and blushing when you spend some time with him." "Yeah, we have," said Fiona. But Smolder couldn't say anything. She couldn't even bring a single word out. She was so confused. But even so, she has now to confirm or even to tell them the truth. "Yes, I do like Spike. I like him more than as a friend." And they didn't notice. Spike he has been so very kind to me, and even if he's a little bit younger than me, I love him. And she saw that she was looking down when she talked, and then she looked at the friends. "What's wrong?" And that, "Oh, He is standing right behind me, isn't he? And Gallus said, "Yup." And she slowly turned around her head and saw Spike just a half a feet behind her. He was stunned. He was not prepared for Smolder to say that about him. "Is that true, Smolder?" he said. All she could do was just nod. Smolder was actually had confessed to Spike that she loves him. And for the past few days after, Spike and Smolder has started been dating actually. Right after that Spike had been confirmed from Smolder that day, he asked her out and she said yes. At first it felt a little bit hard for Smolder to date someone who is a little bit younger than herself. But after a while, she get used to it. And Spike and Smolder actually have felt more confident, and they had a lot of support from their friends. Even then, Spike had his still feelings for Rarity at first, but after a while he realized Rarity would never have him. She would never date him because he's just a baby dragon, or he is a dragon. But she told Spike that after he told her about his feelings for her, she only liked Spike as a brother. But Spike took it quite hard, but he realized at least he has someone that who loves him back. And from that moment, he started dating Smolder even more. After the first few years, Spike and Smolder decided maybe they were to take a next step in their relationship, and Spike was now about 14 in almost like in pony years. He was actually the same height as Smolder, and they became engaged. But it was not as official engagement. They promised to be taking that next step when they were about in their 20s. And after many years of being dating and being together, Spike and Smolder actually became married. He actually had asked her to be married, and she said yes immediately. Thorax had been asked to be Spike's best man, and Gallus had to be the ring bearer, and Giovanna had to be the Smolder's bridesmaid. And the one who performed the ceremony was actually Twilight at the school. Spike and Smolder actually celebrated their honeymoon in 2 weeks at Dragon's Lance. At that time, Dragon's Lance has been more peaceful, even though still their old traditions is still there, but it was more peaceful. And Spike and Smolder loved them to be married. Only after a few years of them being married, Smolder and Spike actually lived in Dragon's Lance only for a short time, and that was only for about a year and a half, to be helping Amber still as a Dragon Lord. Now she was married with Garble, and they had 2 daughters of their own. But after a while, Smolder told Spike that he was expecting to be a mother soon, and Spike took it very much as a surprise. But they decided to move back to Ponyville where they had many friends. And Twilight was very happy to be an aunt. And a few months later, Smolder's and Spike's egg hatched, and they had a daughter which they named Smoke Heart. Smoke Heart was like her mother, very brave, could be a little bit brave, strong, and even confident. But she had also inherited her father's strength, mostly. But also inherited both her parents' strength and speed. And she later, when she was about 20, she actually moved back to Dragon's Land, which she married one of the dragons there, and she had 5 sons of her own. And she worked as an ambassador between the ponykind and the dragons from Dragonlance. And that's how Spike and Smolder found their true love and got a big family. The end.